Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Selectmen's meeting of October 23rd. The first item on the agenda is the capital budget that we've been working on for the last couple of meetings. It's in our package. The first one is the Selectmen's budget. Mr. Ramsey.
Madam Chair, there are two changes in the revised budget. One is item number 4, the Carroll Community Center boiler plants. We are recommending, based on a preliminary discussion with our HVAC consultant, that we move that out to 2018 from 2016, in consideration of the fact that we're contemplating the renovation of the toilets at the Carroll in fiscal 16, and to smooth out the bottom line. The other change is in the amount for the protective agency's fire apparatus floor. That number had previously been $115,000. We've had our consultants review both the scope and the cost estimate, and we've increased that number to $150,000. When we first put this number together, we saw damage to the concrete in one bay. We've now seen it in 2 bays plus a couple of small sections. So the scope has expanded and we've updated the prices.
So the intent is just to do a thorough review of the entire floor and just fix everything that's...
Repair the concrete damage and then resurface it with an epoxy paint type treatment.
Do we know the cause of the concrete?
We believe it's
Deteriorating?
moisture because the rebar was too close to the surface.
Okay, so is that going to be rectified?
The epoxy will be a sealant as well as a travel surface.
So we're not increasing the floor, so we still have another problem with the...
Great minds, we asked that question. No, it's less than a 1/4 inch.
Okay.
We did at the last meeting briefly talk about substitute flooring materials. Will
Right.
that be considered going forward?
We looked at that, Mr. Dolly, and this is my fault. In my original thinking, we were talking to the salesman who quoted installation at $46,000 or $47,000. I mistakenly compared that to our $115,000 project budget, but actually, apples to apples, is more like $60,000 for the epoxy treatment versus $47,000 for the rubber. You still have to repair the concrete.
Right.
And you still have to have the bidding assistance, the structural engineering help, and all of that. So it's really much closer in cost than I had originally thought.
Okay.
And because it's a recent new product versus time-tested concrete repair and epoxy, I'm opting for going with the tried and true method.
So maybe 10 years from now, or whenever this thing wears out, we might find that this new process is no longer new.
Yep.
And there's some history to it.
Yeah.
Well, to that statement you just made, perhaps will there be a guarantee on the new epoxy? Versus
There'll be a
rubberized
warranty.
material is going to be there for a long time.
Well, the
They also
interesting,
had a long guarantee, if I
Yeah.
recall.
they had a lifetime warranty on the rubber. And I call it rubber, it may not be rubber, but
Right.
it's a rubber-like substance. But in consultations with our architect, he said that more than likely there would be a minimum moisture spec for the rubber, which our concrete may not make. And the idea of skim coating the concrete damage, which was part of this quote from the rubberized material fell, that doesn't do it. You've got to go in and cut out the concrete, and you've got to do the sealing work anyway. So he didn't think it likely that this product would be appropriate in this application. Whereas the epoxy is done, the fellow he's been consulting with does it routinely in fire stations all over the place.
Has our fire chief been consulted and asked his opinion?
Our
on
deputy
flooring?
has.
Our deputy.
Yep.
Thank you. And I'm sure he and his vast network of other deputies and chiefs, they talk about this and they all agree that this type of epoxy is the product to go with?
Yes.
Okay.
So do you have a cost breakdown for the 150?
I do.
Okay, so would you make sure to include that in the package that goes to the
Yes.
capital budget committee?
Thank you. Okay. Could you chalk up the bad experience with the existing floor as poor workmanship when it was first created?
Happily, I was not around back then when they first did that. I can
I
tell
wasn't
you,
blaming you.
So he can.
but I can tell you, we've had 2 rebar experiences since then. One with the monopole that was installed at the Protective Agencies building, and one with rebar for the above-ground storage tank outside across the street. And in both instances, we were initially tempted not to inspect the rebar installation before it was poured. And in both instances, you know, the overly worried Dave Ramsey said, you know, I think we better look at this. And in both cases, the installation was improper. So it had to be fixed. So I don't know, I wasn't here. Did somebody install the rebar without the appropriate inspection to make sure? Can't say.
Do our specs require it properly and then it just doesn't get done to spec?
In the 2 instances I was here, the spec was correct, and the inspection detected that in fact it was installed improperly. And just so you know, because you'll certainly appreciate this, too much rebar is a bad thing as well as too little rebar. I didn't know that before the underground tank went in.
I remember the tank across the street that delayed the project when you found that.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I remember
They
that.
had to come back and
Yeah.
remedy it. So I can't say what was done. I mean, as we all know, what we've been doing over the last 15 years or so is further professionalizing our procurement so that we're involving architects and engineers, where initially the intuitive approach might be, we don't really need, you know, like the concrete, the rubber guy said, I'll just skim coat it. But no, it's a structural element. Rebar functions as a wick. It gets wet, it travels up. So you gotta do things the right way, and when you reinstall it, you have to have a structural analysis and spec for how it's gonna be done. We may not have done it to that detail 20 years ago.
Okay.
Okay, so you still have asterisks next to items 2, 3, and 5, which say waiting confirm estimates. So,
5 is an oversight, ma'am. We just changed that number, so that
Okay, so we
asterisk
can
should
take
go
that
off.
off.
But
Okay.
yeah, the 2 library projects, we're still waiting for confirmation on those estimates.
okay, because I think those are the numbers that were in last year, and we said we'll move them together. Remember, she's gonna have to move stuff, so.
I
It
remember
would,
doing
it
that.
would seem to me that the original numbers, probably both, because they were individual projects, both included the labor to move stacks and furniture and so forth. So I would expect,
We're trusting but verifying that.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
why those asterisks are there.
The
okay, when do you
commu-
expect to have those?
I was hoping to have it for tonight.
Okay, so very short.
Yes, soon.
Okay.
If I may ask about the community center boiler plant,
Yes,
we moved it out based on the study. Is the study completed?
it's still in draft form. I'm hoping it'll be finalized, or again, I was hoping it'll be finalized by today, but there's still a little more work to do.
But the draft indicated to push it out.
Yeah, the boiler plant stuff is pretty much settled. It's the control element, which is a new exploration of the rest of it. You know, there's the heat generation and there's distribution and control. That's all part of the study. We haven't finalized that.
Okay,
yet.
thank you.
Okay.
So I would think maybe capital budget would also want to see that report when it's in final form.
Oh, yeah.
The restrooms?
No, the
boiler.
Oh, the boiler.
Right.
Yeah, everyone will see
Oh,
that.
yes, yeah. But to the restrooms, I asked Dave that either he or Carl would make the presentation to the capital budget committee, since I'm sure they're gonna wanna drill down into some of the details to,
And I would strongly recommend a site visit.
Oh, yeah.
Because I
That has to be
think,
part of the
right,
presentation.
because I think,
Photos tell
I,
it. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, a walkthrough says 1,000 words.
right, right,
Now, to that
right.
extent, in a capital budget presentation, would you have Don Mills there?
We certainly could. We have to be resource conscious, but we
I
could.
understand that. But he's the designer of this particular,
He's the,
and he could talk about the ADA issues, which is American Disabilities Act issues. He could talk about asbestos, and I'm sure you guys can talk about this, but for the person who
I'm
will
not an
rely ultimately on the specs and everything else, if it's voted in,
Mm-hmm.
I think initially he should be there.
You know, and that's an excellent point. I think when we do finally pull together a presentation, if capital budget decides that this is something they want to pursue, we should really we should set up some simple presentation that breaks down the costs. Because I think a lot of some of the questions we got last year was, well, it only costs X to renovate my home bathroom.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's what people compare it to, and
Mhm.
it's the prevailing wage that adds some stuff, but then all this ADA stuff.
And there's a lot of structural
Right,
work that's not,
right,
it's not
right.
takes.
So I
it's
would,
not
I
stopping
would,
outfit.
Right.
you know, really try and come up with high-level silos in the presentation so that people see
Yeah.
what the high-level components are. And they just don't focus on the bottom line,
Right.
because that's what happens.
I agree with you.
Because it is a lot of
I
money.
know you do have a breakdown for a little.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
well,
right, you
trust
have-
me.
You have the
Right,
breakdown, so.
right.
Detailed
we can
cost
start that.
estimate.
You know, I think it's a good point. I would suggest, being resource conscious, that maybe we have our own folks present the capital budget first.
I would agree with
And
that.
then, if there's still more questions,
Okay,
and they really want to bring them in, then we pay to bring Don in.
Perhaps combine
And
a few boards so that we can
Do
just
it
do
once.
that
it.
makes sense.
or maybe do it the warrant committee as well, and.
Which is what we did with the protective agency building. You know,
Right.
we pulled together all the questions, and then
Yeah.
we had one combined meeting with
That's a
Don.
great idea.
And we gave him the questions ahead of time, so it was a very efficient use of time.
And then everything else is basically just moved out 1 year from what we looked at last year. And it's
Moved in,
just
right.
shifting out
Yeah.
to the rolling 5 years. So so what we have right now is a total of about 775,000 for fiscal year 16, 530 of that being the bathrooms at the community center. So, any more comments or questions?
No, thank you.
No,
Then I make a motion to approve the capital budget as submitted tonight.
do we want to wait until we get confirmation on the
Well, we've already
library?
waited, the capital budget committee, basically, is we
Okay, all right,
met this week, and everything was due last week. And at
Okay,
our last
all right.
mean, we said, give us one more meeting.
okay,
So
all right.
it's
The
a little bit-
library numbers will be order of magnitude very modest.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
so
all right, just
we
wanted
can
to
always
make sure.
change it.
Okay,
We'll keep the asterisks there.
Okay,
I'll get rid of the other
Take it
aspect.
off for number 5, right?
I will second the motion you just made, Carol.
sorry for interrupting.
No, that's correct. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Let's just make sure that we do a brief cover letter,
Mhm.
and that we include the cost breakdown for number 5. And I think we were going to also give to the capital budget committee the community center history of capital expenditures.
Yes.
Okay, next one is the police, which we approved last week, and when it was reviewed very briefly at the capital budget committee, John Cohn, as astute as he is, reminded us that we do capital budgets at gross, not net of trade-in. And we had approved it at net.
Sort of.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
What was the sort of part?
Well, if you look at the revised spreadsheet, which is attached in your packet, the vehicle was broken out, the total's still 83,000, but the trade-in values are different than they were originally.
Ah.
So the net is still less, but the gross is there, the trade-in value is just different.
Why, is it better information that we've had in the last 2 weeks, or why are those numbers different?
I think so, yes.
So, we have for the police, $63,000 for 2 patrol vehicles, 20,000, this is gross numbers. For the admin vehicle, the dress uniforms still at 19,000, and the message speed board at 17,700. I wish we had had that this morning with the Center Street Bridge closed going into Needham.
Oh, I
It
know.
would have come in handy.
You know,
It's still closed this evening.
Still closed, yeah, there's a pole broke in the wind.
That's what
Yeah.
What was it, a telephone pole?
Yeah.
On the other
broke in
side,
wind.
Needham side?
Yeah, on the Needham side,
Because I was stuck on that traffic this morning.
yeah.
It's funny, I thought the same exact thing about a message board. Same exact. Now,
So, with that, I move that we approve the revised police department budget totaling $119,700 for fiscal year 16.
so moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So this is turning into a big capital budget here.
Yeah, I mean, yes. We'll have to talk about it, you know, the bathrooms might get cleaned out. Special article.
I was just,
There's some discretionary things here too, and, you know, I think that's normal once the capital budget committee sort of
Well, I
rolls it
think
all
once it
together
gets
and see
pulled
what the
together,
numbers
right.
are, we might have to move things around. And the next one is the highway department, which we had reviewed at our last meeting, and Jim, you wanted to do a little
Yeah.
review of the cost of the sidewalk plow brush machine for $171,950.
yes, and over the last 2 weeks, I wanted to get my arm around why the base model was X, and when the final 171,950 was such a huge discrepancy from the base model. And as you look at that particular piece of equipment, the add-ons that support all the activities that the highway department uses, whether it's clearing the brush by the arm or clearing a narrow sidewalk of snow removal, there's a bunch of add-ons here that really are very valuable to this, and I support the purchase of this now, 100%. It's a great, great piece of machinery that's used all the time. As a person who's involved in heavy equipment usage, not me, but people who work for the company, I do an analysis on the number of hours equipment's used every year. And all my operators have to, you know, give us detail, they've used it 6 hours a month. And I will bet you this is used well over 1,200 hours a year, which is a huge number. So it's a great piece of equipment and very valuable.
Yeah, to Jim's point, there are attachments, there's the power angle broom, there's the sickle bar, and there's the side boom flail mower, which are very specific to
Yeah.
different tasks.
You're right,
And
right.
that totals over $45,000 right there.
Good. Thank you for letting me look at that.
No, appreciate it. So with that, I move we approve the highway department budget of $251,565 for fiscal year 16, composed of a new sidewalk plow brush machine, a one-ton dump truck with plow, and a new slide-in sander.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Great. I think highway is scheduled for the 18th of November.
I think.
I think so.
And, you know, it's funny, and I'm in some sort of heavy equipment business, at least we use a lot of it. It would probably be helpful, because this is a big ticket item, for Craig to come in with the actual pictures, because you don't know what the heck this thing is until you actually see it. And if you're a neophyte in this business, which I'm not saying people are, but they could be, and the picture of it and all the arms extend and explain what they are, that'll be a great selling tool to the capital budget for this. So Craig should be armed with as much information as
Good
he's.
idea.
Well, I think you're right, he needs to focus on.
Oh, it's a big number.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure the manufacturer has lovely
Oh, absolutely.
brochures on
Oh, yeah.
all this
I'm
stuff.
sure they do.
Okay, so I think that's it for the capital budget, and we'll just wait for any fine tuning of the library, and that should be that, right? But we'll get all this to the capital
Yes, we
budget
will.
committee. Wonderful. Our next meeting is November 4th.
November 4th.
Oh, no, we moved it.
Can't be.
We moved it, so our next meeting is November 18th.
Okay. November 18th.
Okay. Okay, next item, approve the acceptance and expenditure of the MIIA grant monies. Let's see. Mr. Dolly,
Yes?
I mean, Mr. Ramsey.
She's had a long
Unless you
day.
want to quickly read this and figure this out.
Did you hear the hesitation in my voice?
It's like, oh no.
So Jim, I was really
It's
impressed.
like being in college, you get called on all of a sudden, what?
See how you get on your feet, huh?
It's like, wow.
Just dance away here if you want.
Well,
Mr. Ramsey.
Madam Chair, as you know, our insurance carrier has a loss control program. As part of that component, they offer grants for loss control items. Carl Warnick is asking for a grant that would provide an air quality meter for enclosed spaces, specifically for the pump house over at Carroll Park, which he has to go down into every day. Particularly, it measures for carbon monoxide. It's a useful safety device.
So it's basically a portable carbon monoxide, so it could be used for other things as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's just part of the MIIA list of things that they will,
So they will pay for this.
I commend Kyle for being proactive in trying to search out the proper grants that'll benefit the town.
I concur.
does our fire department have one? What do they use when they come into a house?
I don't
you
know the answer.
You're asking
They
me more
have a
questions,
CO
Carol?
meeting.
I don't know, why am I looking left? Oh, look right.
I believe they do,
I think they do also.
right. So they have some sort of a tester.
A handheld device that you can
I
use.
think they get more carbon monoxide calls than certainly they do fire calls.
They do.
They must have something
Yeah.
that measures.
But this may not be limited solely to CO, though.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I know that, MIIA has been a great agency for us, and they do have all these kinds of programs. There was one where I think if we all took a quick course, we got a discount, and the Selectmen.
Remember, that was a lot of years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So you do remember something.
I do remember something. I can't tell you what I learned, but I do remember I took this thing, right?
It's impressive.
Good. Okay.
Okay, great.
So do we have to vote to
Yes.
accept this?
Under your grant and gifts policy, you have to vote to authorize the acceptance of gifts.
Great, so I move that we accept the grant application for a portable carbon monoxide detector through MIIA.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful.
Great, thank you. Just calendar. Thank you.
The next item is our annual vote to close the townhouse early on the day before Thanksgiving.
Madam Chair, it is customary, the board has authorized the closing of the town hall the day before Thanksgiving at 2 o'clock.
Still not early enough to avoid the traffic on the Mass Pike, but it
That would be
helps.
Tuesday.
Yeah, or Monday these days, I tell you, it keeps going. If you leave on Sunday, maybe you don't get stuck at exit 9.
And it's in both directions.
In both directions, absolutely, absolutely. No, I think it's a great thing to do, and
I certainly
it's
support
very
it.
valuable.
Very much
by the
appreciated by the
Yeah, the
employees.
feedback on all the days that we've extended, shortened days, or especially the summer holiday, I know it's well received, so it's well deserved also.
Great, okay, so I move we close on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving at 2 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Special licenses. Oh, you see, you can tell that winter's coming, we only have 4 tonight. So much for all those fall events, huh?
What if we don't vote the first one? Should we make a phone call? It's this evening.
Oh, that's, you don't mean another event tonight that we didn't get invited to or can't go to, right? Okay, so we have 4. We have the Connor Center tonight, October 23rd. We have the Connor Center for tomorrow night for a Law Librarians Conference. We have the Connor Center on October 29th. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
this
sounds-
looks
that's
good. For a Scotch tasting.
Scotch tasting.
Oh.
I wonder
This
who's
is the one we should
sponsoring the
discuss.
patient. I wonder who's sponsoring
I
this.
don't know. Now, if it was bourbon testing, I'd be there, Okay, and then we have at Elm Bank a Master Garden meeting on November 6th. They've all been approved by the chief. So do I have a motion to approve all of these?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the 4 special licenses as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. go.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't sign some of them.
I make sure quality control on this end.
I appreciate that.
You're so useful.
Finally, after how many years?
Okay, prior notice, law. Yes, our attorneys have been busy.
You certainly have, Madam Chair.
Maybe we'll slow down.
So this is a prior notice, which is just a heads up that we might have an issue with the law budget, which was approved at $190,000 for fiscal year 15. And we currently have used up almost 50,000 of it. And we probably have some outstanding invoices still coming in from the Springdale property situation. And there's some other things going on in town as well. So this is a prior notice for $96,000. And it's just based on running rate and activity that we know about. We'll just have to see what happens as the year goes on.
Well, in this particular fiscal year, the legal advice has been very good and very necessary. And it continues in 46 Springdale because people forget that there's an ongoing legal action also that has to be attended to. Okay, so prior notice, we don't approve the prior notices, right? We
No.
just, do
Sign
it.
it.
It's a heads up.
As we're on to, if I may, because it's a warrant committee item also, and Doug Lawrence is here this evening, who's vice chair of the warrant. That's the original.
Thank you.
I know at our last meeting, we had a reserve fund transfer that was questioned by the warrant committee. In your meeting, it wasn't approved, and it was for reserve fund transfer to cover, I believe it was accounting, payroll.
That's correct, we deferred that until
Right.
the next meeting.
Right, because there was no explanation given by James, I guess, to the point why it was necessary, medical emergency.
There was some explanation, but the question was really whether the extra work was necessary or
It's
not.
actually not even extra work, it's covering the normal workload, if I'm correct, Mr. Ramsey.
Well, I believe, let me rephrase it, that if it had been getting done in 24 hours, then the 28 was not necessary. But I would have to review my notes and refresh my.
Dave, can you answer that right now? Or
I think the source of the confusion may be what the reserve fund transfer paperwork said.
Okay,
Again, we're HIPAA protection obligations, we can't get too far
Right,
into the
right.
details, but
We're aware of that.
but this is paid time to assist, to cover the hole caused by the medical situation. So to keep the current work going, warrants, vouchers, payables, that has required the extra assistance and will continue to do so for as long as this medical situation exists.
So will you be able to attend the next one?
yes, I was there,
As well?
that one, but it went well into the evening, and I had to leave, unfortunately. Mr. Bliss was still until page one.
Well,
So,
if it would be okay if I could review my notes and contact Mr. Stewart, the chair of the warrant committee.
oh, absolutely, please, I encourage that.
So,
I just wanted clarity so you guys be comfortable in when you decide to vote. Thank you.
The Boston Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO, an organization of surrounding towns that looks at regional planning issues. We actually used them when 4 or 5 years ago, when we first started on the rail trail, and they did a little rail trail study for us. But they're representatives from the member towns that get elected to the MPO. And we have the ballots here that are due by October 28th. There are 4 open seats. The town of Lexington is running unopposed for the at-large seat. City of Everett is running unopposed for the at-large seat. Beverly is running unopposed for the North Shore Task Force seat. And Medway is running unopposed for the Southwest Advisory Planning Committee seat. and there are resumes attached for 3 out of 4.
A number of times over the past few years, we have not taken any action on these because we have not known these individuals personally and/or professionally.
I think when it's come to request to nominate, I think that's been the case. I think the board
Okay.
has typically voted to support the
The slate.
candidates that are on the slate.
Okay, I do have an issue with one particular member.
Who you know?
Well, you know, I can read, the newspapers are not very flattering,
Oh, yes.
so I would be hesitant to check that box off.
Okay,
Gentlemen.
so, yep. So we go for 1, 2, and 4?
That's correct.
Right. Beverly, Medway, and Lexington. Do I have a motion to vote for Beverly, Medway, and Lexington?
I'll make the motion that we vote for Beverly, Medway, and Lexington.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Chapter 90 reimbursement request. Mr. Ramsey.
Madam Chair, this project was for Center Street, which was done this past construction season. Project was previously authorized. This is the paperwork to get the reimbursement.
So we came in under the original,
We did.
right, so we had assumed 481,000, and it came in at 446,058.42.
And we were reimbursed for 100% of that, if I read this correctly.
So we get back the difference into our Chapter 90 pot.
Actually, we get reimbursed dollar for dollar.
Oh, dollars
for
and
what
dollars,
you
because
spent.
we've already, okay.
That's an excellent number for Center Street. Did I say $35,000 basically to pave Center Street?
No,
No,
446,000.
446,000.
Oh, I'm looking right here, there's 30 number, project complete. Please,
That's the money back,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
So 446 to pave Center Street.
Yes.
Well, that's a lot of money.
How long is Center Street?
I don't know.
Well, you figure the rail trail was gonna be 3.5
5,
or something? Right?
and that, yeah,
So more or less,
probably like 4 or so.
Yes,
something
yeah.
like that.
And
So-
this would have been slightly less because the square section was not paved.
wow.
It started right outside the center
So,
in both directions.
so more than 100,000 a mile. That's right.
Yeah.
But it came in under, so there you go. So I move we approve the Chapter 90 reimbursement request of $34,941.58.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All three? Thank you. Okay, 2 copies, all 3.
Oh, okay.
There are 4 lines here.
Yeah, it's a mass form. It's not a town of Dover form.
Sherburne voted to increase their selectmen.
And the treasurer remains
Still elected.
re-elected, which I found interesting.
Mm.
Okay, this is mine. Robin, you missed a spot and both spots.
Oh, whoops, that was my fault, I went left.
This one.
Here you go. Yes. Come on, you can have a QA job when you're retired.
Write that down. I'll go on my LinkedIn profile.
Okay, we're adding appointments to the agenda, which was not on, because 2 of us have an appointment. I would like to appoint Paul Wood to the Open Space Committee. I forgot to look, and I see, I think he's, I have to see which job he's filling.
There wasn't,
So I think he must be, no, he's filling the term, either this one or this one, I would guess. So, let's go with we'll go with this one. So, Jane Grace, whose term expired on 2014, and who had been on the committee for 19 years, and was a wonderful, wonderful member of the committee. She is missed. So we'll appoint Paul to fill that new 3-year term, okay, expiring in 2017.
So I'm gonna need that, because I forgot the name of the person who's trying.
So, I move we appoint Paul Wood to a 3-year term expiring in 2017.
I'll second that,
All in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
Okay. And Robin, you have one?
I do. I am pleased to nominate Gary Clough, our former clerk, to fill the unexpired term on the Historic Commission of, just bear with me a moment, this is the most cumbersome of Thomas.
Oh, we went through this last time, right?
I
Who was,
know, it's
I think-
1
I
year
think-
left.
Isn't it Dan?
It's Dan Wilcox.
moved out of town.
Yeah, it's of Dan Wilcox
Okay.
for the 1-year unexpired term. He was, when I spoke to Barry, he thought he could add a lot. He has been a fixture in Dover for many years, and he thought he could add a lot of value to the Historic Commission.
Great.
You certainly can.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that term will expire in 2015.
Right.
And,
Oh,
would you like to see this one at all?
I
You have it, okay.
So we're coming to the end for volunteers, I think, for those committees.
I think I'm done.
Congratulations.
I think
I need to do quality control check on my,
Yeah.
I have a little COA, Council on Aging,
All right.
still working on.
my goal was just not to be the last.
But which reminds us all that we are still accepting folks who wish to be considered for should the November 4th vote be a yes for the 46 Springdale property. The Selectmen, as most of you should know, have committed to creating an ad hoc committee to explore any and all options for use of the land with a goal of going to town meeting in May of 2016 with a recommendation or recommendations. And we've already received, it's been wonderful, we've already received over 24 folks who have expressed interest. We've sent out a survey to those that have expressed interest, and then we'll take all these surveys, talk to every individual, and then make some decisions. So if you're interested, please call the Selectmen's office, and we'll get you out a survey form that you can return to us. On that same topic, the town clerk informed us that she will be handing out to those who would like to see it, the state booklet that we all received in our houses. It was mailed to all the households. I'm explaining all the ballot questions on the state ballot. So we thought that it might be beneficial to have a handout for the town ballot question, which has to do with 46 Springdale. And we took the executive summary, which you all received in the mail in August on green paper, and which was a 4 or 5 page document, and we've summarized it in 2 sides in a bullet form, much easier to quickly look at as you're waiting in line. And so I would like to have this approved, and we'll get it to Felicia Hoffman, our town clerk. She's mentioned that some folks have come in for absentee ballots and have asked questions trying to clarify the ballot questions, so I think it would be helpful in addition to the actual election day, to have this that she can hand out.
Well,
We tried to keep it as nonpartisan as possible and just present the facts.
Right, and I think that was accomplished, you know.
Oh, absolutely. I think, Carol, thank you
Yeah,
very much
thank
for
you,
doing
you
this.
did a
I think
really
it's
good
perfect.
job.
It's perfect.
Great, so I do have a motion to approve the special town election ballot question 1 summary.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. In that light, I would, and you just referenced that the clerk, Felicia Hoffman, did send me an email. I don't know how many people she sent it to. Her office now has the absentee ballots in, and if you'd like to go in and pick one up. Her office hours are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 1, and Tuesday and Thursday, 9 to 4. So the absentee ballots for the November 4th election are in the clerk's office.
Mona, we can make sure that Felicia gets one electronically as well as hard copy tomorrow morning. Great, thank you. Yeah, so we're not meeting again before the November 4th election day. It should also be noted that these are concurrent elections. So we have the
That's a
state
good point.
election and those 4 ballot questions and and the folks that are running. And then we have the town election with the 1 ballot question around Springdale. So it's a little different this year. Felicia informed me there'll be 2 sign-in desks. Everything has to be duplicated. So you're gonna wait in line, you're gonna go and you're gonna, I'm gonna go Carol Lisbon, Cross Street, and they're gonna hand me the state ballot. And then I go to the next table, and I go Carol Lisbon, Cross Street, and they hand me the town ballot, and then I take both ballots and go into the voting booth. So, Ms. Hoffman is asking that everybody try to come prepared to vote, because just the sign-in process alone is going to slow down the process. When folks get into the voting booth, they've got 2 ballots. The 4 state ballot questions are sort of complicated. Some of the votes are not the logical vote for your position, especially ballot question number 1. So that may take a little bit of time. So she's just asking if folks to do their homework first, bring a slip of paper with you or whatever, or write it on your hand to keep things speeding along. That would be great. So the question that we have is, shall the town of Dover be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bonds to be issued in order to acquire the real property located at 46 Springdale Avenue? The wording is mandated by law, which is why it doesn't include the amount. It's one of the reasons that we also did the summary. So what you're basically voting for, if you're voting yes, you're voting for the town to go out and acquire $5.55 million of short-term bond anticipation notes, commonly known as bands, where we pay interest only, which is all of $17,900 a year for this whole town at current interest rates, which equates to about $7 per person.
90 cents.
$7.90
Per household.
Per household, yeah, per household, thank you. And we can roll those over, so it might go up a little bit. 12 months from now, we will roll them again if interest rates have gone up, but they're still very small amounts. And only when the town chooses to make a final decision on what to do with the property would that $5.55 million in bands be converted to some number of general obligation bond, depending on what's decided. Is that to our financial expert? Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to call any of us between now and November 4th as well.
I think what's important is people need to come out and vote.
Yep.
Right, even though the vote was 445 in favor and 16 against,
It can be overturned at the
it can be
ballot.
overturned at the ballot. The majority vote is required, and we know that what folks do in the privacy of the ballot booth might be different than what they do in Mudge Auditorium with 500 of their friends and neighbors sitting around them. So we urge you all to come out and vote.
All right, so it's Tuesday, November 4th. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. in the townhouse.
And expect lines.
And let's hope it's not a day like today.
Yes. Good.
Anything else, Jim?
No, just happy Halloween to everyone. Love your costume tonight.
Love your tie. Love your tie. Do you wear that more than just in October?
No, this is it. This is it.
It's like Mr. Ramsey and his different Christmas ties every day in December.
And socks.
And socks.
Socks.
And socks. Robin?
No.
Okay, everyone, good evening, have a great, safe Halloween, and hope to see everybody at the booth on November 4th.
Motion
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah,
So moved.
7:15, there we go, all in favor?
Aye.